All right, hello, here we are for a digestive system overview. And again, I'm going to talk some about the structures as well as the functions of the digestive system. And here we go. So the function of the digestive system is, of course, to take in food and to break the food down. We need to break all of the food that we ingest down into its simplest molecules. For example, carbohydrates, starches are broken down into simple sugars. Fats are broken down into fatty acids, and proteins are broken down into their amino acids. Also, if we take in alcohol, alcohol must be broken down, and some very toxic substances are produced from the breakdown of the alcohol in our system. Once it is broken down or digested, it must be absorbed. So the breaking down of the food is called digestion. Taking in of food is called ingestion. And then we must absorb that material. And absorption means the movement of the digested molecules from the gastrointestinal tract, the GI tract. Most of the absorption occurs in the small intestines, into the bloodstream. And by doing this, we will provide nutrients to every cell in our body. And another important function of the digestive system is to eliminate waste. And this is the elimination primarily of solid waste, with the urinary system eliminating most of the liquid waste. And we'll get back to that in the future. Here's a diagram of the digestive system and the GI tract and the accessory structures, including the salivary glands, the gallbladder, the liver. The digestive tract itself is one continuous tube from the mouth all the way through small intestines, large intestines, and finally the anus. Anything that is in this tube is literally and physiologically outside of the body. It is not until the ingested materials are digested and absorbed that they become part of our physiological body. Hence, if you or somebody swallows, say, a coin or a piece of jewelry, it is not digestible. It should remain intact and outside of the actual body until it is eliminated from the anus. There are layers in the digestive tract. The mucosa is the innermost layer, and it secretes mucus, which is important actually for our immune system. It can trap and help to eliminate pathogenic particles that we may have ingested with our food. Submucosa is actually deep to the mucosa, contains blood vessels, nerves, and small glands. Muscularis, and I'm not going to have you memorize these, I just want to mention them to you. Again, the muscularis above, meaning as you work from the tube towards the perimeter of the tube, it is above, and then the outermost layer. Here is an idea of how these structures are located within the cavity of the body. And interestingly enough, our digestive organs, primarily our small and large intestines, are held in place by an apron-like structure called the greater omentum. All right, the oral cavity. Again, I don't need to read this to you. These are things that you can read. Notice functionally in the oral cavity, our salivary glands contain enzymes which begin the breakdown of carbohydrates. They also have other functions that you can read about right here. Here are some of the enzymes. Amylase, that is the enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates, begins the breakdown. Lysozyme is a protein, an enzyme that is active against bacteria and therefore really part of our immune system, our innate immune system. And here's the function of the tongue. The salivary glands, this indicates the 3 salivary glands, the names of them and what they do. And disease of the salivary glands, or a parotid gland in particular, is mumps. The location of these glands. The esophagus. Notice the structure of the esophagus, or the description, heartburn, or it could be GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease is part of heartburn, may be attributed to that. And it occurs when the gastric juices are actually regurgitated into the esophagus. And here are some of the components that can cause this. And prolonged GERD, this reflux of acidic materials back into the esophagus, is a risk factor, in fact, for cancer. Here's a process that occurs in the esophagus, peristalsis, muscular contractions which move the partially digested food, which is now called a bolus, down the esophagus, of course, towards the stomach. The stomach is located in the abdomen, and this describes what it is. It can hold up to 2 liters of food. It produces mucus, hydrochloric acid, which is important for the digestion of protein because it activates these protein digesting enzymes. And for protection, contains a thick mucus layer. And you can see what the function of this is. It lubricates and protects the epithelial cells from the acid. Small intestines are the major absorptive organ. Notice they measure 6 meters in length. That's over 9 feet, closer to 10 feet. And in fact, after somebody has died, the smooth muscle will actually relax so that post-mortem, the small intestines and large intestines appear even longer because they are no longer contracted with their smooth muscle, up to about 20 to 25 feet, including the small intestines, the esophagus, the stomach, and the large intestines. And this tells you what the small intestines function is. The continuation of breakdown of carbohydrates, fats, proteins occurs in the small intestine, and most of the absorption, moving of the digested material into the bloodstream. Here are the parts. You can read this on your own and the description. And this is a diagram of the small intestines held in place by membranous tissue called the mesentery. All right, here's the large intestine and the function. Absorb water from indigestible food, the parts of it. The colon, or large intestine, is 1.5 meters long, and again, that is in life. After a person has died, that length will expand because of the relaxation of the smooth muscle. The anal canal. Generally, food takes about 18 to 24 hours to pass through from ingestion to elimination. I just recently listened to a lecture about digestion and how to track the amount of time, transit time, and the idea was to eat some corn or peas, note the time, and then see how long it takes for them to pass through. If you have a much longer transit time than 18 to 24 hours, you probably do not have enough fiber in your diet. It is unhealthful for this solid waste to remain in your gut in your intestines for an overly long period of time. We also have microbes, bacteria in our large intestine that synthesize vitamin K, which is the vitamin needed for blood clotting. Here is an illustration of the large intestine, a diagram, as well as a graphic illustration or a radiograph. Not a graphic illustration, but a graphic picture, literally. All right, the liver. The liver is an accessory structure because it is not part of the actual GI tube. So the salivary glands, the liver, and the pancreas, which actually is more an endocrine gland, but it is in the location of the digestive organs, and the appendix, which is an accessory structure. All of these are considered to be part of the digestive system. Notice the weight of the liver, and it's very important. The portal structures of the liver receive blood from the hepatic artery. I want to explain something about the liver. In addition to the ducts, and here is the function of the ducts, transport bile out of the liver. Bile is essential for fat absorption because it breaks fat molecules, which are very large molecules, into much smaller molecules, so that much smaller structures, so that then the lipase enzymes can act upon the fat. It exposes the surface area. So it's very important that the bile get to our intestinal tract. All right, what I want to point out to you, I mentioned the pancreas, since it is here in the digestive cavity. What is important for you to note is that all of the blood in the hepatic vein, okay, all of the blood from the digestive tract, so with the absorbed, we could say waste products and molecules, travel to the liver. Before they return towards the heart, they travel to the liver. The liver has extremely important functions for storage of glycogen, for processing, and even let's say decontaminating some of the ingested and absorbed materials. And the first place that alcohol is attempted to be detoxified is by the liver. So overconsumption of alcohol does extreme damage to the liver and ultimately will destroy liver tissue, causing cirrhosis, a very serious, fatal disease. All right, the gallbladder stores and concentrates bile. Bile is necessary for fat digestion and absorption. Here are some of the functions of the liver. As I mentioned, it stores and processes nutrients, it detoxifies harmful chemicals, it synthesizes new molecules such as glycogen, and it produces bile. Pancreas is primarily both endocrine, producing insulin and glucagon. These are hormones, endocrine function, and it also produces some digestive enzymes which are important in the digestion of fat. And this shows you the location of the pancreas with respect to parts of the small intestine, primarily the duodenum, also pronounced duodenum. And this shows you the close relationship, and also that the common bile duct from the liver brings the bile, which is important for fat digestion, directly into the duodenum, which is where much of the digestion and absorption throughout the small intestine does occur. All right, this was an overview for you. Feel free to visit and enjoy your studies of the digestive system and ask me any questions you may have. Bye for now.